Sixth graders, we talked yesterday about stretching out our problem, making sure that our problem doesn't just get said very quickly, making sure that when we talk about our problem, we give as much detail as we can. Today, we're going to talk about making sure that our ending states everything that we have said previously. We're going to make sure that our ending leaves your reader with a profound understanding. Writers, I want you to think back to what they tried the hardest to express in your story. So when you were writing your story, what were you trying to say? What was the major detail that you wanted to convey in your story? Your ending needs to restate what you said. Your ending needs a feeling statement. When you give an ending, your ending doesn't just say, I did this in your body. This is the last thing I did, the end. Your ending needs to go back and make sure that you retell everything that has happened, but in a summary. When you give your ending statement, you need to make sure that you give everything that you have already told. So, what do I want my reader to truly understand about my journey, or about my story, about my party, about my sleepover, about my four-wheeling experience? Whatever it is, make sure that your reader truly understands everything about the character in your story. Think about when we rehearsed our draft and we were revising our leads for your first personal narrative. Think back to, and I think that you will agree that the more you revised, the more detail that you gave, the better that your personal narrative ended up being. Pause and reflect on what you want your readers to really understand in your story. I'm gonna pull a personal narrative that was written by a student, and I'm gonna read a little bit of that personal narrative. And I want you to think about what this writer is writing and how we might affect the end of that writing. Okay. So I'm noticing that the story drops off a little bit, and we're going to think about how we can edit this to make it just a little bit better. So I'm going to read just a little bit of this, and then we're going to go back and revise the end of it just a bit. So right now, you can go ahead and put your pencils down. If you have your pencil someplace where you feel like you need to pick it back up, you can sit it on the floor for a minute, and then we can get it back after we're done. If you can leave it on your desk, that's fine. But if you feel like you need to pick it up, I would put it down. Because we can pick it right back up. It's fine. Allison, stop. Don't move, I hissed. Look what we've done. Dad's going to kill us. No, Dad is going to kill me. I could hear my voice rising with panic. Allison and I scrambled up and frantically began to push uprooted, broken plants back into their spots. I was holding a handful of the purple petals, my dad's favorite, when he turned the corner. He was holding a box of plants, smiling broadly in my direction. From his bouncy walk, I could tell he was excited to show me his new plants. As my dad closed the gap between us, I thought about how I was always the one, running around that corner, running to the garden to find my dad. My mind drifted back to much earlier in the spring, when I had turned the same corner in a storm of hurt and tears, crying so hard that I could barely see my dad. He had dropped the heavy stone he was holding to run to me and wrapped me in his arms to comfort me after my running in with neighborhood bullies. Only when I had totally regained my calm had my dad plunked himself down on the grass and eased off his tennis shoes, revealing the toenail he'd smashed when he had dropped the stone. When I had gasped at the sight, Dad had stopped grimacing and had quickly put his arm around me to joke, "You're worth it," and waited till those bullies see how tough your dad is. I squeezed the crushed purple petals in my hand, afraid to watch his friendly greeting dissolve into anger and disappointment. And why shouldn't it? I chastised myself. He trusted me to be in charge. And look what I did. A few feet from me, Dad stopped suddenly as he put the crate of new plants down heavily. His eyes traveled over the ruined flower bed and then stopped on me. I was expecting to see fury etched into his face, but instead, it was a look of bewilderment and, even worse, hurt, disappointment. "Dad," my voice broke as I tried to apologize. "I'm sorry, I'll fix it, I promise." Dad swallowed and nodded. I could tell he was having trouble finding his words. He nodded again, still silent, and pulled me into his arms. Do you see how all of a sudden and sort of disappointing that is? I build up to the big moment where I think that he's going to be so mad. And then he hugs her. But it ends, like, really quickly. I don't revisit anything. It just all of a sudden, it's done. He pulls me into his arms, gives me a hug, that's it. That's it. That's the end of the story. I know, that's kind of, I was like, yeah, that's it. So, the ending shows that I feel bad about my actions, and that Dad blew up, that I thought he was going to blow up, and it shows, that it's a pretty profound moment, a pretty big moment, but I don't do much to end my story. I can definitely make some changes to this story in order to make the end a little bit better. So, I'm going to change the end of it just a little. Dad! My voice broke as I tried to apologize. I'm sorry. I'll fix it. I promise. That's where a pretty good point in your story is. Dad swallowed and nodded. Then he looked away from the wrecked garden and fixed his eyes on my teary face. Placing his strong hands on my heaving shoulders, he said gently, firmly, "You made a huge mess. You really did. These flowers are ruined." Did I go back and visit the fact that she ruined the garden? Yes. A wave of shame rolled through me, and I looked down. Dad was quiet for a moment before he pulled me into his arms and murmured into the top of my head, "But you'll help me. We'll fix it, and we'll make it nice again." How is the first different than the second? Nolan, how is the first different from the second? It gave a little bit more description, went back and revisited the beginning, made sure that when I gave the second part, I revisited the fact that she ruined the garden. I made sure that the reader knew before I ended it what happened and how they were feeling. It actually did give several feeling statements. Yes, I told and didn't say. Yes. Okay, writers, you may begin writing.
Hello, this is Mrs. Kendall. Hi. Oh, no, that's okay. She's actually with Mrs. Hayden. Okay, all right, thank you. Goodbye. Yes, ma'am. All right, kiddo, there's another unprepared.